We talk about Arkansas.
We talked about. Go ahead. You want to talk about Arkansas?
I kind of wonder what your guys' thoughts are on Arkansas. Because a lot of people in the chat right now are asking about Arkansas and Calipari, and everybody's mad at the world. And half the Kentucky fans are saying, told you so. Arkansas fans are like, give him time. What do you think?
I think it's a complete disaster. I think that the Tyson Chicken folks are already regretting making that decision. I think they're sitting here being like, we sunk like $45-50 million between coaching contracts and NIL money guaranteed into a guy that is using this as an opportunity to make his retirement nest egg, right? Like I just, it was never going to work. It was obvious it was never going to work. It was clear to anybody that has any kind of basketball sense that the game has passed Coach Cal by. He's not making adjustments. He's not doing his tweaks. He can't play a modern style of offense. He doesn't have the guy that completely revamped their offense last year is gone. John Welch. He's not with the Arkansas program anymore. There's a little bit of a debate about whether or not that was something where he decided to leave or he was asked to leave or told you're not coming with me to Arkansas, but he's not with that program anymore. And it's a mess. It's not going to work. I think if you look at the way they built this roster, you have 3 ball dominant guards that you're kind of building everything around, and that ain't going to work. You don't have players on the team that work without the ball. You got 5 men that aren't great defensively, like Big Z. The talent is there, right? Adut Thoreau has been awesome this season, right? Boogie Flan is going to be a first-round pick. DJ Wagner is DJ Wagner. We saw what Nelly Davis could do last year. Jonas Adu is as good of a defensive and rebounding 5-man as you're going to find. Like, it's not a lack of talent. It's not a lack of ability. The guy can't coach anymore, and I don't think he cares about coaching anymore, right? Like, it wasn't going to work. It was never going to work. It hasn't worked, and I don't think anybody fans that could have expected anything different than what we've seen from Arkansas so far this season. End rant.
Look, this is when he left for Arkansas, we said this could end up really working out for Kentucky. Then Kentucky hires Mark Pope, and it's met with some people saying he's one of their own. This is amazing. This could be really cool. And the other half of people were like, what's he actually done? I don't see it. What can he – look, Mitch Barnhart sleeps so much easier at night knowing he doesn't have to put up with Cal. What made you think a guy who hasn't changed in over half a decade was going to change because he changed where he lives and where he works? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Cal's staff holds him back. It holds him back because he's got nobody telling him what he needs to do. And this is not working out. It's not good. In fact, it's very, very bad. I mean, I don't think I don't think it could be off to a worse start. They're 0-4 in the league. They're in danger of missing the tournament. You lose to LSU, who's not particularly good. And
they blew a double-digit lead to LSU.
Yeah.
Like, they were up by 11 in the second half and melted.
John L. Davis, I'm amazed. He is a shell of himself. What on earth happened to John L. Davis? And Fland, as much as he's got talent, he took 17 shots last night to get to 19 points. They're not really efficient. Defensively, they're average at best.
They got no one. Like, the problem is they don't have a guy that is going to put them in a situation to be better than to make it easier on them, right? Like, they don't have the floor spacing you need. They don't have the shooters you need. They don't have guys that can be complementary pieces. They got a guy that wants to be a star point guard. They got a guy that thinks he's a star point guard in DJ. They got another guy who wishes he was a star point guard in Nelly. You got a dude Thoreau who's like a great complementary option if he's like the guy that kind of have his balls in hands. He's not really a shooter, right? They don't have guys that there's no Jonas Adu is not an offensive threat. Big Z is a complete train wreck defensively. It just, the pieces just don't fit. You don't have a guy that can go out there and figure out how to do it. You're 0-4 right now in the SEC. Now you got to go on the road to a Missouri team that just went into Gainesville and beat up on Florida. And then, oh, by the way, you get Georgia at home, who's now a top 25 team. Like, we could be looking at a real situation where Arkansas doesn't have a win in the SEC going to Rupp Arena to play Kentucky on February 1st. Can you imagine what happens? Seriously, T.O., what happens if John Calipari comes back to Rupp Arena and leaves with an 0-8 record in the SEC? Does he show up for the post-game press conference? Does he show up for the game? Is he there? And I don't. I feel like I'm piling on Cal a lot here, but like this, and everyone saw it coming. This hasn't really been all that much of a surprise.
Yeah, no, I think you guys nailed it. I was just kind of curious what you thought.
You teed us up for that. You teed us up for that. You knew what you were doing. Look at his face. You knew exactly what you were doing. Man.
Are you afraid?
Afraid of what?
Are you afraid to say that it's not the
No,
answer?
it hasn't gone well. It hasn't gone well. And I want to attribute it to this. He's run the same stuff forever. They looked a little bit better last year, but they had Reed Shepherd, who ended up being number 3 in the draft as a guard. And down draft, sure, whatever. Went 3rd.
Don't forget Dilly.
Keep in mind, when Cal took Kentucky, the SEC was not what the SEC is. This was the SEC where far secondary. Hold on, John. Let me finish. I didn't make those faces when you were talking.
I actually agree with this.
They were not the same SEC. It was a down league. You got football. You've got all this stuff that was taking the front seat. They were first class. Basketball was in the back. So they weren't getting the same level of player, although the level of player were going to the ACC. They were going to the Big East. Now, money has changed the game. The investment's been in basketball. All the other teams have just as much talent as now Arkansas, then Kentucky. The talent discrepancy is not what it was back when he was dominating college basketball. Now it's even, which is why you see a lot of these places now that aren't traditional basketball powers. They've had really good coaches. They just haven't had those level of players. And now playing field's evening. And I think Calipari is the perfect example of that.
Yep. And I will also say that in years past, Coach Cal would have gotten Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, and AJ DeBonsa to all go to Kentucky. And now he's getting, like, all due respect, Boogie Flynn, Billy Richmond, and Carter Knox. All are good players. That's not like getting Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa, and Cameron Boozer all to come in the same class.
I agree with you.
Can I ask you guys?
Yep.